I really like that aesthetic. Overgrown, especially if there's like something like old technology from like the 80s, and then it's like just a TV on the side of the road that's just like blown out that nobody wants, and there's just like stuff growing on it.
That's Mike's vibe.
I love it.
That's Mike's whole vibe.
What do you mean? I just walk around.
You're just like an overgrown 80s television on the side of the road.
That sounds like an insult, but I actually take it as a compliment.
Hey, welcome to the Votary Podcast. We're a team of filmmakers based in New England who are passionate about storytelling. We talk about the impact that stories have in every part of our lives, from business to culture and everything in between. Thanks for joining us.
There.
Yes.
That's a good one.
It doesn't need to be that loud.
Well,
Because I've been on a set where
I've been on a real set. I'm Luke, and I've been on a real set, and I know how things work.
And then I was berated by the sound guy. He was like, "You didn't need to do that." He's like, "That's way too loud."
what did he have his headphones on?
Yeah.
I was at a...
Oh, so Luke, this was one grumpy sound guy.
Yeah.
Who you
go on any set.
You spiked the audio in his ears, and he was just like, "Hey,
no,
you hurt my ears."
Just a little
No,
tap.
Sure.
A little
All right.
tap.
I've been on a set where I'd would whisper to the sound guy across the room, and we'd have conversations. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's really weird when if you're like audio recording and someone speaks, like calls you, and you don't have a sense of direction. You're like, because you're like your microphone's like pointing that way, and you're like looking this way. You're like, what?
Anyway, first time ever on the podcast, Falin.
Welcome,
And Luke and then Luke in Berlin.
We've been here before.
Luke in Berlin.
We're old news.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you guys
This is
know.
only my second one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nomadland was the only one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Welcome back, Luke.
Wow.
Thanks.
I want Chess Live to be like a normal podcast thing, except for the people listening. It's really
No, that's
actually
not.
for the people
We should get
watching.
a
It
second
really
board
is not
and we could
exciting.
be over
It's
here.
like
Yeah.
golf. Nobody wants to watch golf. I'm sorry, I don't like watching golf.
Why are you apologizing?
We just
I don't
lost
like.
I don't
half
know,
our
because-
viewers, Falin.
Well, listen, because a lot of people like to watch golf for some reason.
Dads.
Like Adam.
Really?
Yeah, he loved it.
Wow.
He was like, don't shit on golf. And I was like, okay.
Falin, make sure you speak into the...
Oh, sorry. It's my first time.
It's okay. Well, there's a gate on there, so if you don't speak loud enough to get over the gate, you're just gonna be like,
Yeah.
you know, it's gonna be like a Kendrick Lamar album.
I'm also like trying to hold back a little bit because I feel like my laugh is so loud.
Oh, that's
I've
fine.
been told that
Just
before,
lean back.
so-
Have you heard me laugh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Mike will
forgot.
often just laugh.
Yeah, I have to move because there's you might not have seen it too often here, but I reach a point of laughter where it's not a laugh anymore. I just scream.
Yeah.
I don't know why it
Yep.
happens. It's really annoying.
We
Yeah.
all know.
I hate it.
No, it's good.
awful.
It's nice to
You
have
can
enough.
you can
I hate
choose
it.
you can choose a lot in this life, but you can't choose your laugh if it's
Yeah.
genuine.
No, it's true.
You know.
Yeah.
I feel like my laugh changes all the time. I don't have a set laugh.
I get that. Yeah.
I have to hold mine back a little bit because I
don't
just
have
feel
to
like
hold
it's
back,
just it's so loud, and like some people say it's infectious, but like not in the good way.
It's definitely infectious.
Well, infectious doesn't sound like a positive thing ever.
Right.
It's like, wow, you're really infectious.
You're really contagious.
You've really,
Say that about laugh. I think it's a good thing because it means you make other people laugh.
Yeah. No, I know.
you.
It's just the word out of context. It sounds
Right.
like infected.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
That's our post-COVID trauma. Well, not post. but-
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
We've just heard that term a little too often. Is it my move, by the way?
Are we playing this in the middle of this podcast?
All right. Maybe. All right. I'll just
and maybe we can. Okay.
All right. No, I won't make a big thing out of it. But
okay.
I've been so zoned in on chess.
Yeah.
I watched the Queen's Gambit recently, and they reached new levels of nerdiness where there's two characters driving in a car playing chess by saying what the numbers are. I was
it's
like,
so
okay,
cool.
that's on another level.
It's so cool. That show is so cool.
It is.
Have you guys seen that show?
Yeah.
Not yet. No.
What?
It's Luke.
You haven't seen that or the Addams Family?
Oh yeah, the Addams Family was the other one, right?
Oh my gosh, the Addams Family.
I love that movie.
To be honest, I've only seen it once when I was a kid, and I didn't really connect with it. I gotta maybe see it again. Is it one of those things though? Well, is it one of those things that it's only good because you saw it as a kid, or are you too close to it so you wouldn't be able to really separate?
You know, I would have to gauge it again because I haven't seen it in a while. But I saw like the second one where Uncle Fester, and what was that actress's name we were talking about the other day?
Joan Cusack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she's in it. Oh my God, she's such a badass in it. She's like an actual gold digger, and she like tries to get with people, and she like murders her husbands for their money. But I don't know. It's just like, I don't mean to sound like like she's such a badass.
You're getting so excited. Yeah, you should watch.
That's my dream.
I agree. I like Queen's Gambit. And I was getting really into chess, and a bunch of people were recommending it, and I watched it, and it's that typical thing where you're like, yeah, it's about chess, but it's really not about chess. It's really about like, the characters, you know, like any theme, any like sports movie or like anything. It's always just like, it's like, whereas another one was like all about like boxing. It's like, yeah, no, but it's really about like, the relationship with like brothers or something, you know. Like everyone talks about that movie Warrior, and I just feel like I can never watch it because I'm just like, I'm done with boxing movies, and people are like, no.
You don't understand.
You haven't seen it?
No. I could see it on your face. You were gonna be one of those guys. You're gonna be like, it's not about the boxing.
Me and Jamin and Jed were all like, oh, Warrior, dude. It's like one of the most heart-wrenching films.
I have no excuse other than that. It's like, don't judge a book by its cover. It's like, I've judged that movie by its cover so many times. But I love, with all my heart, Tom Hardy.
Yeah. It's like one of his best performances.
And I realize this might not apply to everyone because maybe not everyone has this, but thinking about like, what's a movie plot idea or just an idea for a movie that you've never seen that you've always wanted to see? And then I realized, well, not everybody maybe has that. And so if that doesn't apply to you, like, what are your favorite types of movie plots? I'm kind of a sucker for like a heist. Like it doesn't matter how typical it is.
Yeah.
I'll get pulled in, and it's really dumb. I'm also kind of a sucker for guy who means well and is kind of like vanilla, and he's like just, I don't know, he's just got like a boring office job. He kind of like goes downhill and like snaps.
Oh, okay.
Like these sort of typical things.
Okay.
Like there's certain things where I've
Fight
just,
Club.
right? Yeah, like in the 90s they made like a bazillion movies like that. Matrix, Fight Club, American Beauty. They're all great movies.
Being John Malkovich.
Yeah, like just stuff where it's just like, wow, you know, I think things were so good maybe in the 90s with like the economy and everything. But then people were starting to realize like, whoa, but like, it doesn't fulfill you, man.
Yeah.
You know, it was like the beginning of that type of thing.
Yeah.
But then, like an Ocean's 11, like as typical and as like we've seen it a million times, I'll get pulled in no matter what.
Yeah.
With those types of things. But
yeah.
That's, I heard someone say that's why so many people loved Rogue One. 'Cause it's essentially like a heist movie.
yeah.
Wow,
With no memorable characters, so it's extra interesting.
Yeah.
Because they all die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, spoiler
I haven't
alert.
seen it yet. Come on, Mike.
It's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a good one.
What is good about
I
it?
like it. Man, okay.
No.
Watch it again.
No.
apparently.
Look, I'm open. No, okay. Rogue One objectively is well made, obviously.
Yeah.
Like that whole opening and everything, it's like well shot. It like pulls you in. You're like, wait, am I watching Star Wars?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a really awesome Darth Vader thing at the end that is like the most fan service thing ever. But but we all accept it because you're like, okay, finally you get to see Darth Vader do. You kind of bridge the gap between the prequels and going crazy with lightsaber fights, and then Darth Vader just kind of moving like awkwardly in like the originals. Like he does some stuff, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But everything else about Rogue One, I remember just being like, all this emotional stuff was happening. The music and crescendos and action in my heart was just like, ding, 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 don't care.
Well, the coolest part about it is how it adds to, it's like the only one of like the sequels that actually adds to the original trilogy in an interesting and like meaningful way, fills in one of the biggest plot holes of the original trilogy, like in a compelling way.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a plot hole as much as just it's a whole section that they skip, right? Because the section that they skip is many people had to die to get these plans.
No, the plot hole of like, why did they put this dumb like easily like this one thing in the Death Star? You could easily just destroy the whole thing.
Because the idea for Star Wars wasn't really that crazy or fleshed out. It was just a fun space movie.
For years, that's been the thing that everyone like would make fun of Star Wars for. Yeah. And then they added like this interesting storyline where this guy who was like the one who designed it is on the inside, and then he defects, but he left like a piece in there that would make it so someone else could come and destroy it.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you see it?
Yeah, but it's been a long time, and I don't really like.
Yeah. You're not like a huge Star Wars person, right, Bill?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I enjoy the movies. Well, some of them, but
I've been rewatching some of them, and because I have Disney Plus, and I'm like, I might as well make this worth my $9 a month. I don't really know why I have it, but I realized there's all the originals restored in like 4K. It's like beautiful film, and Empire Strikes Back was not directed by George Lucas, and it wasn't written by George Lucas, and George Lucas didn't go back and slap a bunch of CGI like crap and like random characters on the screen like A New Hope or Return of the Jedi. And I realized this is the only one. And I was talking with a friend recently too. He's like, yeah, that's the only good Star Wars movie. And I was like, what? Wait a second. How did something that would like blew my mind for my entire childhood get like, when you boil it all down, this is it. Empire Strikes Back literally, in my opinion, is the only Star Wars movie that's left that's like, this is worth watching. Because it has it all. And it has like, that's the one where all your expectations were like switched. It's like a tragedy. It's crazy. It's super dark. It's like, it's got like some weird stuff in it. Awesome action. But they didn't retouch it all, and the dialogue is really good because it's not written by George Lucas. It's like, it actually is, it's, there is obviously the classic, I've got a bad feeling about like there's that type of stuff in it. But yeah, all the other ones I'm like, I don't know. I loved A New Hope when I was a kid, and now you can't find it unless it's all like retouched.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you like about Rogue One?
Okay, well, to be truthful, I haven't seen it since like, oh my gosh.
When it came out.
Right? Yeah, when it came out.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
But I know that I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed like the main actress's performance. I remember that of it.
She was cool.
She was
like a cool, like,
yeah.
Like, there's so much about it
that
I wanted to like I've always liked this sort of like underdwelling kind of like gritty, like, the
beginning almost had like a Blade Runner kind of feel to it.
That sort of scavenger.
That's what I remember most about it was it was very like darker than the other ones, and just like the tone of it all. That's what I remember. But that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, every time I ask you what your favorite... Yeah, every time you're such like this like bubbly person, and then I'm always surprised like every time I ask you what movies you like, you're like... I'm like,
Midsummer. Kill Bill.
Yeah, like...
I love Kill Bill. Speaking
Kill
of
Bill's amazing.
Speaking of like movies that I'm into, like I'm into a good revenge plot. Like
Okay,
that.
great.
That's like.
Have you seen
something
Lady
I'm
Snowblood?
into. No. Oh. But I want to so bad. It's like on my list.
Yep.
I do want to see that.
I'll let you borrow it. I have one and two.
You have it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But that's the movie that inspired Kill Bill.
Is it?
Yeah, and so it's a
gotta
Japanese revenge film. It's not like shot for shot or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's it's a revenge film.
That was like one of the first rated R movies I watched, so it was very like imprinted on me, you know, maybe more so as if I just watched it for the first time now. But I remember like, you know, not to be that person, but I saw that it was like a woman and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know like a woman could be an action superhero. This is so cool." Like that was like so weird to me, and also it had like themes of her being a mom and like I was really attracted to that, like that scene where I think she's either getting attacked by an assassin or like she's going to assassinate somebody. And then she like whips her, like pregnancy stick. What do you call that? A pregnancy test.
Yeah.
She took I'm sorry. She took a pregnancy test.
I mean, it's a stick.
It's a stick. Yeah. A pregnancy stick. and she was like, read the box. Like it means that I'm, you know, pregnant. And so like, don't kill me. And you like get that moment of like, oh my God, like this woman is an assassin too. She's just going to kill her. Like who cares about that? And so I remember that scene specifically.
And it works.
She just like leaves her alone.
The scene is that assassin comes to her, it pretends to be housekeeping, and she's staying at a hotel.
That's right. Yes.
And she's like housekeeping, and she's like, I have some flowers here from management or something. She's like, I'll leave them by the side of the door, and then she like ducks down to pick up the stick, and she shoots through the door.
Yes.
The person pretending to be housekeeping shoots through the door, and then they're both like on a standoff.
Yes.
In that, and she knows, like, it's such a well written scene because it's just like, she's really kind of banking on this other woman having sympathy.
Yeah.
Being like not a moment before you blew a hole through the door. I just found out I'm pregnant. And she's just like, I don't believe you.
You're
full of crap. And she's like, no. Any other day you'd be right.
Yeah.
But right now you're 100% wrong.
You're 100% wrong.
It's so good.
And she's like, read the box. And she like is fumbling with the box. That scene is just so like beautiful to me. And I have like, I think this is right, but I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bad at like analyzing things into like a deeper meaning, but I thought it was interesting that it was like another woman that was assassinating her. Yeah. Because I feel like if it was a man, it might have been a little bit different. But
I think it was
just be me.
I think it was written that way for a reason, but also like women would make better assassins when you think about it. I think they can get away with more. I think women would be able to be more. I just think women could get away with killing people a lot easier in general. Yeah. And I think that they probably have a lot more.
You know what? And they haven't been caught. So,
also, have you noticed how many women are obsessed with like those documentaries and everything?
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
that's
it's
a good point.
I'm not saying
obviously those are the only podcasts I listen to. Like.
Obviously, guys are into that stuff, like watching Ted Bundy documentaries or whatever. But I know a lot of women who get far down the rabbit hole of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to attribute that to something else.
Right.
I'm not saying, so therefore that's evidence that they're killing people
in secret.
No, I'm just saying there's something, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I just think that's interesting. But anyway,
yes.
Revenge stories.
Yes.
Has somebody wronged you, Falin? Is there something that, well, that's it. What's interesting, right? Is like I'm probably overanalyzing and it doesn't actually mean anything, but I found out I've always had this sort of desire to be, or not found out, I've just always had this where I've just always wanted to be an outlaw. And so, if I had no like moral compass, you know, if I didn't feel like a sense of just objective right and wrong, whether I felt guilt or not, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't use that as your compass because
No.
if you feel no guilt, you'll just keep keep doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it's like it's this sense of like objective. This is objectively wrong or whatever. If I didn't have that, I would totally be a bank robber.
Is that why you like heist movies?
Yeah.
That's what I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
like there's something about I think that's like common. I don't know. Maybe
Common to want to be a bank robber.
No, I just mean like, don't we all kind of secretly think like that's what Westerns are so interesting because of that, because it's like you could get away with things. You could stumble into an unknown town, shoot up the bar, take the money, get on your horse and fly out of there and get away with it. That was happening all the time.
Yeah.
What's stopping you? And then the sheriff and people are like looking for you. Like they're ever going to find you. Like they're looking for like 20 other people who did the same thing.
Right, but what's the I don't get to what the appeal is for you. Like what's the specific like you're talking about like robbing a bank and you're talking about killing a ton of people. So
no, I'm not saying I would
I know, but like if you were a cowboy, like what were that's what you want to be.
No, I don't want to be a cowboy.
You want to be an outlaw.
I'm not saying I just mean
Who
in the
doesn't
sense
want to be a
that
cowboy?
I mean
Right?
I don't know, maybe.
Luke has a cowboy mustache, I feel like. Yeah.
Luke, do you have fantasies of being an outlaw?
I've had fantasies of like being on the run, like being a fugitive. Like I have that dream a lot, where like just to know what it would be like to all of a sudden have to drop everything else in your life and just like run, just go.
I think shows like Breaking Bad or something is proof that like we fantasize a little bit of what it would be like to just be like, okay, what if I found a loophole? You know what I mean?
Or like, what if you were pushed to your limit? Like, how far would you go?
Yeah,
that's kind of what those stories are about. It's like, it's us kind of trying to discover where this path would take us if we followed it.
Okay.
Right.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
See, when Luke explained that
I was getting to that.
But on the cowboy thing, there was literally a period of time like between maybe my like 3rd and like 8th birthday where I just like had every single birthday party I had was like always a cowboy birthday party. It's like every year.
Oh man,
it's the
that's
same
awesome.
thing. Yeah, because I was born in Texas and we were only there for like 3 months, so I've hardly been back at all. But I was just fixated on that as a kid. I was like, I'm from Texas, I'm a cowboy.
Yeehaw.
Do you feel like you're a Texan?
No,
Like that's like your roots?
in some ways, but not really.
Yeah.
But I do love Westerns, and that would probably be one of the stories that I would say either I'm like drawn to or one that I'd like to make someday. Probably be a Western. In general, I enjoy stories where there's like this moral, not ambiguity, but like this tension, and you don't quite know what the right thing that the character should do is, or there's two characters and they have like opposing views on like what path they should take or what should be done, and you can see both sides.
Yeah.
Like those kind of stories, or ones where it's like two very unlikely people are thrust into something together and they have to figure it out and work together. A good example of that is the movie Hostiles with Christian Bale.
Excellent movie.
And it's just like these two people who hate each other, but they're forced to like go on this quest together essentially, and then it's just like all the tension, and it's just like all your emotions are so high the whole time because you feel so torn.
There's a lot of layers in that story because it's just like dealing with this subject that's kind of tired, but doing it in a way that's really fresh.
Yeah.
You know, like the white man and Native Americans and all that stuff. It's like it's also kind of like right away when you're going into a Western and it has that subject matter, you're like, they're probably gonna keep doing this bad Hollywood thing that they've done in all these old Westerns where it's just like depicting Native Americans as like these total savages or whatever.
Yeah.
And they do it in such a amazing way where you really like identify with both characters and Yeah, it's really...
Yeah, because you can kind of see, like, I can see why he hates him, and I can see why he hates him.
Right.
And
it's
both
totally
justified.
It's totally through justified experience. It's not about... Yeah.
And for those who don't know, it's basically the story of there's this Native American older like chief who's been held at this like fort in the West somewhere. And then there's this older Christian Bale's like this general or like colonel or something in the army, and he's basically commanded to escort this chief back to like his land where he came from, so that he can like pass away there and like be buried there and stuff, because like the war, the conflict is ending. But like that chief, you find out like, you know, murdered all these people and did terrible things. So Christian Bale hates him, but also Christian Bale has like killed lots of Native Americans, and so he hates him. Yeah. But they're like forced to go on this journey together back to his land. Anyways, yeah, I love those kinds of stories.
Yeah.
And also like family tension as well, where, or like, you know, the classic like two brothers who just like can't get along, a Cain and Abel kind of story. Like there's something very biblical about that I like. Like the Merowitz stories I really enjoyed with Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller, but just like something about like family tension where there's just like a lot of water under the bridge and they have to work through things. And yeah, I just love those kinds of stories where you feel really conflicted, but you want the best to come out, but you don't know how it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I like family dramas. A good family drama is like, I'm kind of a sucker for that too. Honestly, a good romantic comedy, I'm kind of a sucker for it too. I know, I'm revealing some like darkness right now.
Like what?
Big romantic comedy.
Oh, that one's always a little weird for me to watch.
Sure,
it's weird. It's always
the Tom Hanks one?
Oh, the scene where they're kissing is objectively like disturbing.
Yeah,
because it's like, this is a child.
Yeah, I mean,
he's in a man's body, and where's the line?
Do stuff. They also do stuff too.
They do stuff.
They do
off
stuff.
screen.
Yeah,
it's implied.
They do it. They do it, and then like when he leaves to go back to the genie and like become his age again, like he's like, "I'll miss you," like, and the woman's still there. I'm like, ugh. Like I can't like get behind it. Like no matter like how old it is, I just still know that he's a little boy.
Yeah.
And it's just weird.
Yeah, no,
and that would just
enough.
Not fly today.
It's kind of, no, it's not.
Yucky,
it would
yucky.
not. Yeah.
Yucky.
I've never really. Yeah, you're right. You know why? This is horrible.
Why?
It's a total like young boy movie. It's like if you're anything but a young boy watching that movie, you're like, this is weird. But if you're like a little kid, you're like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, when you're a kid, like a lot of things just go like, like just slide by your head. You don't even notice until you like watch it when you're older, and you're like, oof. Like if I had like even an inkling of what I knew what that meant, like that'd be inappropriate. But inappropriate. Listen to me. When I was
a kid, I really liked war movies. I was really into that too. I think I was more desensitized when I was a teenager than I am now. I would watch like Band of Brothers or Saving Private Ryan and all this stuff, and just there'd be something about like the camaraderie and just like the intensity and like violence that I was just like, I just ate it up. I loved war movies. And now I watch that stuff and I'm just like so stressed out. And I'm just like, these people are like dying for like stupid political reasons. Yeah. I'm like upset.
Yeah.
I still love war movies, but it's like, yeah.
It's just, it gives me like anxiety to watch those. Cause all I can think about is just like them thinking about like that they might die like today or tomorrow. Like just the constant anxiety of of that, and like that real people felt that at one point or another, or now still.
Yeah.
So it like,
I think it's important to like go back to that stuff. I think it's hard because like, I don't know, it's great to watch like World War II movies and sort of separate yourself from like present day, because like back then it was like, man, like what a noble endeavor, and like people and like our families were like a part of this, but that stuff was kind of going over my head when I was younger. I was just like, wow, this is like intense,
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, this is like real.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I have a question to kind of build off your initial question, Mike. That's all right.
Yeah.
Because what I thought of immediately was like asking about like if there's a story that you want to see told or something. Is there like any like books or comics or anything that you've read or come across that's not a film or a show yet they want to be turned into one, or a historical event or historical person that hasn't like got a film or a movie made about them that you think would make a great one?
I really, really love Salvador Dali, but I don't know if his life or whatever would make like a great movie. And there probably is one somewhere.
He's definitely like in at least in other movies.
Yeah, he's like just like a wacky character, but like I don't know. I find him fascinating. They'll probably make one about Tom Waits when he's gone.
Yeah, I hope
but
they do.
He's like one of my favorite people ever, and he's had a crazy life.
How can anyone play Tom Waits other than Tom Waits, though? Who could do that?
Oh, you know who could do that?
Who?
The guy who played Hellboy.
Oh yeah.
But he's in Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy, not the remake that for some reason exists.
What's his name?
He's
but he's like just as old as Tom Waits is. So.
I know. So he would have to play like old Tom Waits if he outlives him.
Yeah.
I don't know who could play young Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Someone like.
He's just in a world of his own.
He's like, he's like one of my favorite people.
Yeah. What about you guys? Any books or historical events / figures?
For me, it's like I just really love like dystopian novels. So anything like dystopian, I'm like totally game for. I am currently reading The Handmaid's Tale, which is very good.
Which has a show.
A show already, and I would be lying if I didn't say that I started reading it because there was a show, but I wanted to read the book first before I watched it.
Good. Yeah.
But there's this book called White Oleander, which is not like dystopian. It's one of my favorite books, and again, it's like very depressing, but it's about like this girl and her mother goes to prison for like some circumstance that her mom always like gets into these things like with other people, or she like will con somebody out of money or like just do all these weird things. So she's like inconsistently in her life, and so she jumps from like home to home, and every home experience is like so interesting, and it like really just like follows this like one girl throughout her life, and very sad, but she also learns a lot. So it's like one of those like coming to age stories. And
I'm a sucker for a good coming to age story.
It's a good one. It's a good one. But yeah, I'd like to see that, but I don't know. I don't feel like the masses would want to see it. People probably watch it.
You don't feel like the masses would want to see what?
I don't know. Like a movie like that, like because it's
Handmaid's Tale.
No, the book that I was talking about, White Oleander, because it's like just. It's very sad. Like the whole thing is just sad. But she does learn a lot. Like there's like good things that happen to her. But yeah. And I don't think I've like watched. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where like just bad things happen in the whole entire movie. Like there's always like this arc, unless it's like a documentary when they're talking about something that actually happened.
Wow, so you really like gravitate towards things where it's like main character conflict? More conflict?
Well, because it's just
maybe they'll climb out. Nope.
It's just like reality,
and then they just
though.
Die.
Well, sometimes
just like Bergman films.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's just people's reality, though.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
Like, and I know.
Sometimes it's refreshing to see something like that because you're like, oh.
Because not always great things happen all the time,
You should see Leviathan. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's this Russian film. It's kind of like a modern retelling of like the story of Job almost. It's really, really well done. Very depressing, but I found like it has a really good ending though.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah, I'll totally check that out. I just like to see things that aren't just like, you know, the good things happen all the time. So that sounds so depressing. I am a happy person, I promise.
Maybe you're happy because you're like, after you consume some story like this, you're like, wow, my life ain't half bad now.
Right. And then I'll feel guilty, like, I have such a great life. No, I'm very, very grateful for all the things I have.
Your life is just so happy that you like the conflict you have to find in books and movies.
Interesting.
Maybe. No, I've had some like conflicts in my life.
Let's get some conflict up in here.
No, I've had some conflicts in my life, but I don't know. Like I also just like to read about and watch like the human condition. You know what I mean? Like people like really having to get through something that's like real. You know, it's not just about like superheroes or having like, you know, a power or like something fantastic happens to somebody. It's always like, you know, someone like really just like getting through something is very powerful to me. And like hearing about other people's experiences is very interesting. You know,
I'm with you on that.
You can't live a million lives, so.
YOLO.
You can watch it. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like the last movie I saw or anything like that. Yeah, where it's just like, it gets worse. I'm thinking of that scene in Louis. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
Louis C.K.'s show.
Yeah.
He sits down with like a Columbia executive, and she's like,
oh yes,
she's like, I am a woman who can get things done. I can greenlight projects. Do you know what that means? He's like, yeah. She's like, are you interested in making movies? He's like, yeah. I'm sure you have a million ideas. Tell me your best one. He's like, well, I've always wanted to make a movie about a guy. You know how there's always like, you know, something happens to him and then he learns something and things get better. She's like, yes. He's like, well, I've always wanted to make a story and make a movie where, you know, he doesn't learn anything. And he just keeps making poor choices. And then things just get worse. And he works at this horrible factory and he hates his job and then he loses his job. And now he doesn't have any job. And he just keeps going on. And she just starts kind of checking out and looking around the room. And she sort of recognizes someone else in the restaurant. And she's like, will you just hold that thought for me, dear? Like in 1 second. And she's like, I'll be right back. And she leaves, but he notices she pulls her purse with her. And she just goes and sits with them.
Yes, I do.
It's
remember
like
that.
It's so funny, and I like wouldn't be surprised if that really happened to him in some way. Because nobody wants to put money into a story that you're describing that is that way.
Yeah,
and it's because people go to stories and go to movies because they're like, oh, I want to be entertained, and usually that doesn't mean I want to watch someone in complete utter despair.
Right.
I want to live vicariously through the character.
Yeah, they're like, my life's already this bad. Like, why would I?
Yeah.
But I think that part of the vicarious thing is why sometimes people are drawn to tragic stories, or like we were saying, the extreme. Like, what would I do if I was, in the middle of World War II?
Or it's just more relatable if you see someone going through like struggle and that things keep getting worse and there isn't just some magical thing that like comes out of nowhere and like, the Deus Ex Machina of every story where it's just like, of course this happened, it's so hard to make a hopeful story not feel unrealistic or, I don't know, like genuine or, not cheesy, like when it, If you can pull it off, it's like, oh, it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it's got the like victory or whatever that is at the end has to cost something. Like there has to be a sacrifice in order for it to feel real or believable.
Yes.
Sure. I think that's probably true to life. But sometimes it doesn't always work out. And when you see a story like that and that's reflected of like the hardships or whatever, sometimes it's refreshing. You're like, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But the average viewer, obviously, or studios that are going to put money into something, obviously aren't going to back that type of story.
Well, yeah, that's
very often. That's why I'm struggling to even think of one right now.
Right. That's why I said that. That's why I said no one would watch it.
No one would watch this. I guess a lot of horror, I guess, tends to be like that because people they'll still go to it. Like horror movies still make money.
But I think horror is like more, you can like dissociate from like the human story. Because when I think of like horror, for some reason, I only think of like ghosts and like demons and the things that are gonna pop out at me. I don't like to watch scary. I don't like to watch scary movies. But
what are you talking about? You said one of your favorite movies is Midsommar.
Yeah, but it's not scary. It's like disturbing.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't like when things pop out at me.
I love it when things pop out at me. It's the adrenaline rush.
Berlin, you like jump scares?
I love jump scares.
She doesn't even scream. She's like, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great. I love watching like scary movies with people like you, Falin, where you get like genuinely scared. Because then I'll get vicariously scared through you. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I should be scared.
No, this is how I watch. This is literally how I watch movies. You can ask my boyfriend.
Really?
I literally do this. I don't even watch
when I was a kid, I would never watch scary movies. And then I joined a club and we held a movie for Halloween at school. And I was like, as soon as I watched that, I was like, okay, this is the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
I, for the longest time, was like really poo-pooing horror because the only horror I had seen, like, first of all, the movies I usually like it because of the characters, the storyline, and all these things always seemed like they didn't matter in a horror movie. Like the characters were disposable and like the story was like predictable because it's like, well, everything's gonna go bad and there's going to be a group of people and then they're going to, disperse and obviously they're going to be picked off one by one, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
But then I started seeing like these kind of more artsy horror movies that have come out in the last there's always been that. I just started seeing them here and there. Mm-hmm. I think the first one I saw that really blew my mind was May. Have you seen that?
Yeah. I watched it because you recommended it to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did like it.
I loved that it started off like almost like a Zooey Deschanel like quirky girl movie.
I was so confused.
You're like, what is this?
This isn't a scary movie. What's going on?
Well, the opening shot lets you know that something's going on.
Yeah.
She's screaming with like a bloody eye or something.
Yeah.
And then you totally forget about that. And it's like pop music and she's like walking down the street and she's like, yeah, she's like trying to like get with this boy and like she likes him, thinks he's cute, and like she's got a lazy eye, she's gonna get her eye fixed so she can be cute for the boy. It's like you're like, what? Yeah, like what is this movie? And then
I want your commentary for this film.
And things go downhill. She wants a friend so much. Like bad enough that it gets really weird. And that was one of the first horror movies I realized like, wow, this really made me think. And it was like a total character study. And it was a total like, I don't know if I want to give away spoilers, but basically she kills a bunch of people and chops them up and makes a friend. And it's rough. And but it, obviously it's very stylized. It's very like, and I was like, wow, this is like kind of, obviously it's disturbing. Obviously it's a horror movie, but it's a lot more like complex and psychological and interesting than like the average horror movie. And that was the first horror movie I really fell in love with because I was like, wow, this, it's kind of more sad than anything. Mm-hmm. It is a little bit like morbidly funny. Like it's kind of, it has that tone where you're just like, all right, this is kind of silly.
Right.
But it also made me think of like, wow, like the depths of like how badly people want to just like make a simple connection, and if that goes wrong, that really is like it can be this tragic. Obviously, we don't hear there's too many stories of it being to that extreme, but it's sort of like that's felt like to me like the illustrating that point is like how badly people need to like connect with someone else, you know, and like have like a social life and all this stuff, and then you think about how many people really don't have that and how like harmful that can be. Yeah.
I don't know. Some people don't care to not have friends. I don't know. I've met people like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I guess we're not going to be friends then.
They're just like, yeah, I don't really like need friends, and they're like totally content with that.
Oh, I need friends.
I wonder.
Yeah. You can say that.
I like the way he said that.
It's easy to say that.
It is.
But
that sounds like there's a little bit of pride behind that statement.
I
don't need friends.
Yeah. I don't need. I mean, it wasn't like that.
Yeah. But in the age of the internet, would you consider? I guess I don't know this person, but like you're probably talking to someone online, right? You're probably having some form of human interaction at some point.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
like,
it could be like an introverted person that like goes to work and they see people, and then they're like, yeah, you know, just none of these guys will be my friends. By the way, I don't feel this way, so don't think I'm like indirectly talking about
asking for a friend. Do you need friends?
Yeah, no. No, I know this person. I know this person who doesn't want friends, doesn't need friends.
What would you say to that?
That's a movie trope that has happened in real life 0 times that you see in every movie, where it's just like, yeah, you know, so I have this friend who has a problem with drugs and you know what I mean?
No, or it's like a love story, and it's like, what if this person really loved you?
Yeah.
You're obviously talking about yourself. Okay.
Yeah. It's just like, how is that not so obvious? Yeah, no, I didn't think you were talking about yourself.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
No, I've never been anyone who's living like somewhat satisfying life who just like doesn't need any form of.
Well, there are people who like go out into the woods and totally isolate themselves and just like live alone.
Right. Yeah.
They're actual people.
I know. I fantasize about that. There's a guy who was living in Maine, in like the woods of Maine, I think, for years, and cops couldn't find him, but they knew he was out there because he just walked into the woods one day. Forget his name. I gotta read this book. And he would just go inside people's houses and sheds and stuff and just steal stuff. Oh. And he would just live off of that for decades. And he never started a fire because then they'd be able to find him, I guess. And he just had like a camp in the woods. And he didn't really seem to have a very good reason for doing any of this. He just kind of one day he was just like, well, I'm done. And he just walked in the woods.
I want to talk to that person.
I do too.
I'd love to talk to that person.
As crazy as that is, I'm like, I respect this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm a social person, but like I can so easily see myself just like
walking in the woods.
Yeah, I'm out.
One day we just see Mike just straight walking in the woods.
I feel like I'm saying things that are so darkly weird and inaccurate about me, like wanting to be an outlaw, wanting to like disappear into the woods. I'm like,
something's coming.
Who are you?
Yeah, something's about to happen.
No, I'm like, I don't actually feel this way right now. It's just things that I've thought a lot about.
That he's dreamt of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a kid, I think the woods thing, it's like I literally had acres to myself as a kid. Like that'll do something to you where you really feel like connected to nature. And like to this day, if I'm going through something, I'm like, I need to be in the woods. Like,
right.
And I need there to be no possibility of me walking into another person. Like I need the woods, you know, like not like a trail
not
where you gotta be, what you gotta do, like the, how you doing? None of that.
Oh,
I'm talking nothingness.
I cannot stand that. I do not like when you're like walking in a trail and then you like just like I hate that. I don't know why. It's just
do you have it's different in like Massachusetts, and it's probably much different in North Carolina or something. When you grow up there,
probably.
like it's like everyone's greeting everyone. There's this dynamic here where you kind of could just look down, not acknowledge the other person, and it's not rude.
Oh, maybe it's the New England thing.
That'd be very rude in North Carolina.
Oh, of course.
I think it would still be a bit rude here, at least on not like in the city, but like on a trail. If it's just two people walking by each other,
You can grunt.
at least I would feel bad if I did that.
I mean, I do it. I'm not happy about it
yeah.
because I don't know.
I know.
as-
There's a sense of obligation. Like I need to
is.
acknowledge you. We're both out here doing our thing.
Yeah.
If you're on like a trail, like Appalachian Trail, or hiking in the White Mountains or whatever, like I've done that a bunch of times, and there's this sort of acknowledgement, like we both are we're doing a thing. We're both like acknowledging, like this is cool, and like what's up, and like that's different than like if you're really like. If you're alone with like dress pants on and like disheveled hair and like a tie that's like ripped, you know what I mean? Like you clearly are like I've had like a day, and you're walking in the woods and you see a guy with like a fishing pole and he's just got a bunch of empty beer cans.
That was very specific.
And he's just walking. Well,
Yeah, is this a situation that you've been in?
probably.
You're like,
I don't know. I'm just painting the picture. You're seeing it, you're envisioning it. It's a wide trail. It's
Yeah.
a wide trail. And you're walking for a while. And you're and you catch a glimpse at the corner of your eye, and the person's kind of far away, and it's like it's too far to really acknowledge them. If I wave now, then it's really awkward when I'm close to them.
Well, because you'll have to acknowledge them again.
And it's totally taken me out of the whatever I'm trying to process,
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I'm thinking about this guy.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about this fisherman guy who's probably drunk. He's like walking by you, and then you do the thing where you acknowledge him, then you look at the ground, because you're not going to just stare at them the whole time. They're walking, and he does the same thing.
Yeah.
He does the same thing, because you glance up and you see he saw you, and then he looks down.
Right.
He does the same weird thing.
Yeah.
And then you're close to them, and then you're like, how you doing? And then you have this awkward like
or
just
you
stupid,
do like the
stupid
smile.
interaction.
You do like the
Do the head nod.
Yeah, or just
yeah.
The
morning.
no teeth smile.
Yeah.
Or like
Oh God. Yes.
It's so weird. It's so
I
weird.
kind of
but
enjoy not that specific smile, but like seeing someone and just be like, hey, that's making a quick connection with sometimes. I enjoy it sometimes. Other times
I have this in my neighborhood when I go for walks in the morning.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like if I didn't say hi, they wouldn't acknowledge me at all. And I'm like, I'm the weird one.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, good morning. And they're like, hi. It's kind of like, oh God, you said something. Like,
They're
But
shocked.
I'm talking about the woods walk where it's like, it's just remote enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
It's
He's
like
painting more of a picture.
the reason you're out there is probably because you don't want to go home to your wife or or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you're out there probably for a reason.
Right.
And it's just funny when you have that sort of like back and forth where it's like, I don't know. Why
We're so far
talking
off
about
topic right now.
No, it's fine. It's what
I
always
don't
happens.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did we get here? We
We
were talking about scary movies.
I know.
Stories.
Oh,
You
the
tell
guy went in the woods. No, that was.
No.
That's
Let's
not-
move on. Brilliant. Do you have any stories that you want to see made into movies or shows someday?
No.
No. Okay. I mean, your thing is more like capturing what's happening, like photojournalism. And,
Yeah, I'm very
being in
into
the moment. and
in the moment documentary stuff.
Your mind isn't like coming up with situations that you're like, oh, I want to see. You're just like taking things in and capturing beautiful moments.
And I like if I make beautiful moments, there isn't much story to it. It's like artsy fartsy crap.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the lights.
Yeah. Are there things like parts of the world or like a people group or an event or something you're like, oh, like people haven't covered this enough in documentaries or in photo journals or whatever. You're like, I want to get in there and take some pictures.
I want to explore like South Asia, but that's just sort of like a personal thing, not so much of like journalism. I was just like, yeah, it seems perfect. Why not South Asia?
While you're there, you should go to Central Asia too, because not many people cover that. But
I'll cover Central Asia.
Very fascinating.
Yeah. Pictures.
Yeah. Anyways,
I think it's cool that you're into documentaries. I can't get into them usually.
No? Oh, I love learning. I just love learning.
Yeah.
Like I watch on YouTube like TED Ed videos and stuff like that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh,
What are the ones that you're into that you watch the most often? No.
I just
I
watched
answered everything.
I just watched one that was like what scientists would predict would happen if all humans all of a sudden just vanished from the face
I've
of the earth.
seen that
Did you see
one.
that?
Yes.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
It takes
I
for
wanna see that one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was so interesting, that video. Like one of the first things they mention is that we have like a permanent footprint on the earth with like just our cities and our roads. But, like I didn't think about much. It's like
Right.
if we were to just disappear,
Yeah.
that, like we're gone, but we've left a lot
But
behind.
not like that permanent. Like our cities, like over time, they would just start to disappear like other civilizations. It was interesting though, like what they said, what would last and what wouldn't. Yeah.
Like
interesting
what?
to think about. Like I just remember they said like brass sculptures, like brass lasts like a really long time without
cool.
like breaking down. So like any artist that worked in brass, it would like stand longer.
I'm gonna keep that in mind.
So you just see like a bunch of brass instruments,
No, I'm just gonna
just like
left sculpt out of brass now.
Yeah,
Everything I make will
Yeah.
be brass.
Yeah.
that's cool to think about.
I really like that aesthetic. Overgrown, especially if there's like something like old technology from like the 80s, and then it's like just a TV on the side of the road that's just like blown out that nobody wants, and there's just like stuff growing on it.
That's Mike's vibe.
I love it.
That's Mike's whole vibe.
What do you mean? I just walk around.
You're just like an overgrown 80s television on the side of the road.
That's
so
that sounds like an
you.
insult, but I actually take it as a compliment. You know what? You're just an oversized 80s television on the side of the road.
I like the default girl's voice that you use for me.
That's just my default voice for everyone.
I think you used that voice making fun of me once. I was like, do I sound like that?
No. No, I do it to make fun of anybody. It's not, sorry. It's probably really rude.
It's okay. I just called you an overgrown.
Yeah, I'm aware. Cool story. Earlier this week, Falin was just laughing at me because she was making fun of me in her head, and I was so confused. She like I said something, and she was. It took me like the day to get it out of her. Later, she's like, "Yeah, I was just thinking about like, cool story."
Yeah.
And she's just laughing at me.
It was uncontrollable. Like sometimes that just like happens
I noticed.
where I like literally can't hold laughter in, and then you just kept like looking at me and asking me like, why are you laughing at me? I couldn't handle it. I was like, no.
Well, it's like laughing in class or at a funeral. Or
Yeah.
something. You're like, I can't. I'm
can't
not
just
supposed
not
to be
do
laughing
it.
right now.
Yeah.
With that, but suddenly everything's funnier now because of it. I've always wanted to see a movie that really studied like the inner workings of like a crazy person.
I think there's several of those.
There are, but not like sort of the. It always seems like a little bit more distant, like something that's like inner monologue kind of thing.
Did you ever see My Beautiful Broken Mind? It's a documentary. Is this woman who was a filmmaker and then had, I think it was a stroke or something, and she like lost a lot of her like brain faculties, where like especially her language, the part of her brain that controls like language and understanding words and stuff was really damaged, and so she had to like relearn language. And she was, like I said, already a filmmaker before this happened, and so she like made a film herself, like about herself recovering from the stroke. And somehow she's connected to David Lynch, and she was always inspired by his movies and stuff. And so, and she was, liked how he, the surreal sort of nature of his work, and she felt like she was living in this surreal reality. And so she connected with him, and he like, she like Skyped him or something and talked with him, and it was part of the film and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I would love to Skype with David Lynch.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's also people assume he's going to be very like out there and all this stuff. And he seems just pretty like low key, charming and shy.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there's like, I was just watching an interview with him and they were like, yeah, so what was your inspiration for Eraserhead? He's like, the city of Philadelphia. And like that's the explanation.
Okay.
People are like, okay, yeah, but is that it? He says he got into film because he's like, he was like, oh, moving paintings. You know what I mean? Like he was coming at it from this angle of not like, oh, I have all these stories that I need to tell, even though he writes and directs it, like most of what he does. It's really fascinating. Yeah, and he kind of creates his own language. But yeah, everyone's frustrated by his vague explanations for his movies because he doesn't really want to give explanations because it's supposed to sort of speak for itself. But
I know that the few episodes of Twin Peaks that I saw was very like confusing, but I thought it was cool. It was kind of weird, but I loved it.
Yeah, well, Twin Peaks also is kind of like a response to the television of the time, where there was a formula for television that they were kind of trying to break the mold of, and so it has this weird 90s melodrama vibe in there that's just like, this is what you're used to seeing. And I think they were doing that on purpose to draw people in, and then they're like, this is what you're not used to seeing. and the plan was to not ever reveal who killed Laura Palmer. So the first episode you see that she's dead, and like the plan was literally to drag that out and never actually reveal it, to keep it a mystery, just to really just like sort of defy expectation and do something completely different and really not make the mystery, solving the mystery, the point. They wanted to make more of the characters and like this town and all these other mysteries that tie into it, that be the point. And I think that's amazing, but the studio didn't go for it. They were like, no, you need to, like, there's no way people, like, we can do that to people. You need to like reveal who it is. And so they made up this whole other kind of crazy spiritual plot, and it's really cool. Yeah, he's a big inspiration to me, but it's not like I have to really be in the right mode to watch a David Lynch film or Twin Peaks. It's like kind of an event. You're like, okay, right, going in. Like you get ready, like pack a bag.
Pump
you're like,
yourself up.
all right. It's like I'm in for something. Even if you've seen it before, it's like it really, I don't know. It has an effect on me. Like it puts me in a headspace that's like interesting. I'm like, I have to think about it for a long time, and I love that because there's so many movies or things that you watch that you just forget it. Like,
Everything I've ever seen ever.
I get that.
Yeah, like
it's hard to remember details.
Watch things that are just forgettable.
Yeah,
like
it's like the opposite of Cody. He watches something once and he's like remembers every line from it. And
I
quotes
can't understand how people do that.
I've seen
Just
The
doesn't make
Office
sense.
like so many times, and he'll make references. And I'm like, how did you remember that?
Right.
I just have an awful memory.
Yeah.
I'm like a goldfish.
And 2 seconds later, I just have an awful memory.
Did you know? I have an awful memory.
It's like 10-Second Tom and 50 First Dates. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's a good movie.
That's a good movie. I love that movie.
What is it about horror movies, Berlin?
It's the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, you do get a little bit of a boost, I guess. Yeah.
I love it. I love the anticipation of everying.
Yeah. Roller coasters is a no.
Roller coasters is a no.
Scary movies.
She's
Scary movies.
bouncing in her seat.
Yeah.
Just talking.
Because you're thinking of like some scary movie you're gonna watch later.
But I also really love like awful scary movies.
Yeah, you like B horror.
I love all the Evil Dead movies. I love Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite movie of all time, just because I could make it. I watch it and I'm like, I could make this. I could do this. And it would be just as good.
Maybe you should make a horror film.
Okay.
I mean, horror is a good intro for a lot of filmmakers, it seems, because they're, like we were saying earlier, like there is a viewership. Like there's a loyal following that are like, yeah, we know it's low budget. Yeah, we know it's a B movie. Yeah, we know nobody is in it that we know. We'll watch it because it's just, I don't know. That's interesting. Like Peter Jackson, he started making I've never seen any of them, but he started making like really kind of like low budget horror. He hadn't made anything notable before Lord of the Rings. It was just like, that's how he got into film.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I never really got into them until more recently. And I like horror movies that are almost like a ghost story.
Oh, I love paranormal horror movies.
Yeah,
Those
where
are my
it's-
Would
favorite.
you consider a ghost story?
Well, I was gonna say, like things that sort of like are presented almost like a horror, or The
Yeah.
Lighthouse. Have you seen The Lighthouse?
No, I
Yes.
haven't.
It's sort of like presented like, oh, this is gonna be this dark horror thing, and then you watch, you're like, I don't really know what I'm watching,
Yeah.
and I like that.
A ghost
I was
story
kind of
is
disappointed
sad.
with the Lighthouse.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I fell asleep.
I could understand that.
Yeah, it just didn't. It felt like there wasn't much underneath it at the bottom. You know, there was no like reward.
Yeah.
And I didn't care about the characters in the end. I was just like, wow, this is beautiful and has interesting pieces, but it didn't fit together into something. I was like, that's great.
Yeah, I was obsessed with the way it looked.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I love these actors and the style and the fact that it's like, you know, it's like Massachusetts coast, and just I knew that they like filmed it there for real, and I was just like, oh, I'm in it. Yeah, and halfway through I was like, okay, so it's two people going crazy. All right, I'll accept that. You know, like that's fun.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of them's crazy and the other one's not. Nope, they're both crazy. And then I remember it ended, and I was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But I realized later, like, that I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, it was similar to David Lynch, where you're just like, what did I just watch? But then you can't stop thinking about it. And I don't know. I think I liked it more in hindsight, but I haven't watched it again. So when I first watched it, like that end shot, and he's just like laying there, and there's just like the seagulls. You're just like, okay, like what?
Yeah.
Like, what did this give me? And then I don't know. I couldn't stop thinking about it afterwards, and just like I don't know. I love it. It's because it's so mysterious, and it's sort of like they're both after this, like almost like this spiritual force that lives in the lighthouse. Like he's like one of the guys is like so protective over it, but you don't understand, spoilers.
Yeah.
You never really understand what that is. I don't know. But it has this undertone of just like darkness, and almost like it gets inside your soul or something and like changes you. I don't know. I was like, what is this?
Oh, it's like one of those movies that changes your perspective on things.
No,
Or-
like the force of what the lighthouse is in the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I wasn't saying it was that powerful of a movie that it changed.
Okay.
It permeated my soul.
Yeah. Well, that is a question I do want to ask. I want to know like a movie that like really just like struck a chord with you, where you're like, oh my gosh, like that makes me think about something differently, or that really like makes me think differently.
I don't know if there's like a movie that's like changed the way I think of something, but there have definitely been movies that have just like impacted me.
Yeah.
Like My Girl. That was the that was the
yeah.
first and like one of the few movies that will like make me cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm not much of a crier. In that movie, I just bawled.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: how old were you when you saw that movie,
It's like
Berlin?
16.
Okay.
Who's in it?
Macaulay Culkin's in it, and
Wait.
and I don't know the main actress, but like I don't know what her real name is, but the character's name is Veda. And
Darth Vader.
and her mother, like, she's like, how old? She's like 8 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's like about an 8-year-old girl, and her best friend plays Macaulay Culkin, and her dad is like a mortician, and she like lives in this house that in the basement has like dead bodies where he like works on the dead people, and she lives in like a funeral home essentially with her dad, and her mom dies when she's like a baby, so she's never met her mother, but her mother like weirdly comes up very often in the movie.
Yeah,
like very often, and it talks about how she's like confused about death, and she like never goes downstairs in the basement because she's like so petrified to see a dead body. And can I spoil the movie, or do you?
No, don't spoil it.
Okay, I won't. It's nice.
I'd like to
see.
I'd like to see it. Yeah,
You should see
It's
it.
nice to see, so I won't
Okay.
spoil it.
I'm a different person because of it.
Okay.
I now experience emotions.
Yeah. But there's like something that happens that I'll be vague about it, but that like changes her
all right.
and her perception on like death and stuff. And it's just very like interesting because she loses like some part of her innocence like very young, and it's just interesting because it's completely from her point of view, like completely and solely like from her point.
That's what some of my favorite
Like,
stuff.
as a kid.
Like I really like very singular
Yeah.
stories that are like you're even if it's like unreliable narrator stuff.
Yeah.
Or if it's a character who you're not on board with their actions, it's just I really like just intimately get inside someone's head.
Yeah. And you feel like kind of just confused about things as she does, being in her perspective.
Have you guys ever seen Tideland?
No.
You should watch Tideland. Well, it's like a crazy sort of pretty disturbing almost thriller, but it's from the point of view of a little girl. And it's a little girl who moves into this house in the middle of just nowhere with her family, and there's just like no one around, and it's just except these like creeps. And actually the movie that came to mind for me with answering your question is directed by the same guy, Terry Gilliam. So I'm a big Terry Gilliam fan with some of his stuff.
Yeah. Was that one that really like struck a chord to you?
Brazil. From a young age made me realize that movies aren't just like entertaining, and I thought that it was a comedy, which it kind of is. It's like a dark comedy. And Terry Gilliam was in Monty Python, so he has that reputation. So I was like, oh, it's going to be silly, and it had like a lot of like funny aspects of it, but it also has this like brooding totalitarian like futuristic craziness, and like it gets really dark and interesting and like psychological. And I was pretty young when I saw it, and it really had an effect on me. To this day, that's like one of my favorites.
Is there any like scene in particular that you can think about? Okay.
The ending, for sure.
Don't say it.
No, I'm not going to. It is not a movie
again.
I would ever spoil. Have you ever seen that, Luke?
No.
Brazil. It's got a great soundtrack.
What about you, Luke?
I was trying to think. There's probably some older ones I could point to, but in more recent memory, the latest Terrence Malick film called A Hidden Life. It's about this Austrian defector in is defector the right word? In World War II. Basically, it shows the beginning. Like it's a World War II movie, but all just takes place like up in the Alps of Austria, in this like small town, and you can see like the beginnings of like the war kind of starting, and people are starting to get drafted and stuff. And this one guy essentially is drafted, but he refuses to swear allegiance to Hitler, basically, because he can't just morally. He sees what's happening, and he has a very strong faith, and he just refuses. But against like this immense pressure from people in his village and his town, and who you see at the beginning of the movie are like well-to-do, like ordinary, like good people, but they just become swayed by like the Nazi regime and stuff. And then and it cost him obviously a lot, but also his family, because like they have to kind of endure like the scorn and ridicule of their village, and they have to his wife has to take care of their family by herself because he's in prison, and like it's just this very costly act that he's making just because of his conscience. He's doing what he thinks is right, and it's just so powerful. And it just kind of like we were talking about before, it's like one of those movies that I think the purpose of those kind of stories, like in our society, is like putting us into these extreme situations. Say, how would you act? And it makes you reflect on yourself and observe your own character and ask like the what ifs. You know, what if I was in his position? What would I do? Would I have that kind of courage and resolve to stand for what I believed in, or would I just fall in line with everyone else? So it's just really, really powerful. One of those movies that. Yeah, just really, like, I just think about all the time. I've had many discussions with people about, so.
Terrence Malick is very, like, if it's a hit, it's a, like, he can, dude can make a movie, let me tell you.
Let me tell you, hey, that Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick knows
like,
how to put a film
Tree
together.
of Life, like, amazing, and then he had a few, like, where he went really, like, the experimental route, but this was much more a return to a more structured narrative with a great story. I watched still with like this beautiful style and stuff. It's definitely long and slow, but like purposefully.
It's Terrence Malick, yeah.
But you're literally living through years of this guy's life, like in prison. So that kind of this slowness like serves the purpose of the story. Those stories are important because we are faced with those little decisions every day of will we stand for what we believe in? Will we make the right decisions? But we can just feel like if we don't pay attention over time, we can feel like, those aren't that important, the little decisions I make. But then when you see like one single decision like blown up like that in a great story, it makes you think about how you live your life every day, kind of.
Yeah. Have you ever seen like Ameros Peros? It's Alejandro Iñárritu.
Oh, okay.
And it's like this sort of illustrating like these tiny little decisions, how the ripple effect. So it's 3 seemingly disjointed stories happening back to back, and then by the end you see the sort of like event that converges all of them, and they're just these little decisions that people make that just have this massive like effect on these people's lives. Yeah, it's like super powerful. And yeah, he's an amazing director. But I think about that a lot, like just like the little things that seem meaningless. Like if you could kind of just see like the ripple of what that has like in your future. And what's the answer to your own question, Falin? What is a movie for you that has just been like, oh my gosh, I'll never be the same?
Oh my gosh, I'll never be the same.
It wasn't a movie, it was a documentary series on Netflix called, what was it called? Oh my gosh.
Wow,
it's
really
so
made
good.
Impact.
No, it really did. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the name? I always recommend it to people.
Let's look it up.
What's it about?
Oh my gosh, it's about these, it's The Keepers. I know what it's called.
The Keepers.
Okay. It's called The Keepers on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's essentially, like, if you look at the trailer, it's supposed to be about this nun named Sister Kathy, who got murdered at this town somewhere in the South, or I don't know, somewhere in the vague South. And Like it was like a big scandal for their town. And then these two, like her former students, like I think like 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever, started to like uncover the case again because they were really interested. They were like, I want to know why my favorite teacher died. And so they like reopened the case themselves, and they like do all this work and like research themselves, which I thought like was crazy. Like they just like did it off of like a public forum and was like, if you know anything about this, like please tell me. And then it starts to uncover like a bigger picture, like a way bigger thing, and it has to do with priests abusing children. And like Sister Kathy was like trying to uncover that and like make that known, and then that's why she got murdered. And then you find out all this other thing, like all these other things that the cops were involved and like they knew about some stuff and they were trying to hide for. Yeah, it's like this whole thing, and all of it's true because you like find out like more and more clues as the story goes on. So it's kind of like one of those like true crime documentaries.
I've seen it. It's really good.
But these two like women actually made like a huge impact on the Spotlight article about, or like the Spotlight story. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Because that stuff happened in Boston, but it was actually happening like literally across the nation. Yeah. Like, but just, you know, the Boston Globe happened to, you know, get their hands on it, and the journalists like wrote that story. But there were
those posers at the Boston Globe.
Yeah. Jeez. But yeah, like these two women were fighting, and then you hear from like victims of these you know, priests and stuff, and they kind of like use different names because they don't want their names to be out there.
Sure.
But they have like a follow-up podcast too, like after you see the docuseries. It's like crazy. It's so insane. It's like a real life, like you feel like you're the detective with these two like elderly women like finding clues and stuff about all this crazy
another like
that happened.
Documentary on Netflix, Don't Fuck with Cats.
Oh my god, that one is so good.
Similar to that where
one's
like
crazy.
People online like
I can't handle that stuff.
Yeah, that one was that one's insane. That one like really reveals a lot about the dark web and like what's in the dark web, and you know, terrible things that people do. But
yeah, like those. Yeah, I watched a Ted Bundy documentary on Netflix, and I was like, okay, no more bad documentary from my brain. Okay, I'm okay now.
Oh, I love it.
God, no, thanks.
I just find that story so particularly interesting because it kind of has to do with what you were saying about how people in the nation were like, they didn't want to go with that stuff, but they kind of were going with it because like the Catholic Church had so much power over these towns. Sure. Like so much power. It's insane. Like the police, like, you know, the priests, and they were constantly moving them like all over the place. And then more kids were being affected and all this stuff. And people knew about this stuff, which is the weirdest part to me, is people knew that this stuff was happening and they did nothing about it, which is like the thing that really like struck a chord for me was, you know, kind of what would you do in that situation? Yeah. You know, people kind of just swept it under the rug, but I thought I just think it's also incredible that these like two women who know nothing about detective work just started to find all this information and reopen the case. So kudos to them.
Yeah. Well, it's just like,
it was a great documentary.
Yeah, it's just like sort of like that fighting for what you know is right, no matter what the consequences are. Right. Like it is so like important and ingrained in us, and we like to watch stories like that and like to think like, oh, I would do the same thing, but it's like that's the hard challenge. It's like, would I be one of those people who just brushes under the rug? Right. I'd like to think that I would not. You know. Right. But yeah. Right. But all right, well, let's wrap. Let's rippity rap. This cute, tiny Berlin at the end of the day. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Goodbye.